Yes, guys, welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. It's an early start this morning. For us in the UK, we're on a 9 a.m. start. For Bigman, it's slightly later in the day. Bigman Bakker, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Johnny. Hello and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. Yeah, nice to be on a morning stream. It's an afternoon for me, but it's a different time to be on. And let's hope we catch a different section of the audience. I'm looking forward to game week 14 because it seems like it's going to be a high scoring game week, which is on the cards.
Yeah, when I look at my team for game week 14, I'm like, oh, loads of nice, good home fixtures for my players. And even I've got some benching headaches as well. We'll talk about them a little bit later. Loads have gone early this week with Mbomo, I guess is the big news. We had a price rise from Mbomo, even though he blanked versus Arsenal. Like 2 price rises last week, 1 early this week. And Big Man, you were just saying to me off air, I think you've seen a lot going early on that move, which makes complete sense for those that want to save on team value, right?
Lots jumped on Sunday actually because a lot of traffic is going there. Bowen is flagged, Matoma is injured, Eze got injured, Diaby got hooked. So all that traffic is going to Mbomo, and he's going to rise very, very quickly. I think he'll be very highly owned. In fact, this week, a lot of people are going to have him.
Yeah, Luton at home is a good fixture. It's not as good as it gets, though. I'd prefer Sheffield United at home, but it's up there. I haven't gone early, despite being someone that has booked in that transfer. My thing with European weeks, what's your take on this? Like, obviously, we all think points over pounds. We always think FPL points over FPL pounds. But we all love team value as well. And in years gone by and seasons gone by, I make that Diaby to Mbomo switch on Sunday night to beat the price rise, knowing I've got a second transfer if I need it. But the amount of injuries we're seeing, muscular injuries especially, with all the fixtures these guys are playing, with the internationals, now European football this week, I was just thinking, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I've got so many of my players in action. What if Salah or Haaland or Saka gets injured? Then I maybe don't want to sell Diaby that game week, or maybe I want to bring in, probably still bring in Mbomo with one of my 2 transfers. But if I have 1 injury, maybe that changes. If I have 2 injuries, then it definitely changes who I'm selling. So I've waited patiently. I don't think I could take another price rise, though, especially now we've seen some of those fixtures.
I mean, that's the risk-averse way to do it. Just get as much information as possible. Having said that, I mean, even if you had made the transfer, I wouldn't have faltered it, especially considering that Brentford aren't in Europe. So I think that would have been a risk-free transfer as well. But a lot of people have moved early, as you can see. Cash is another one who's dropping very quickly, and I suspect we might get a fall from him tonight or day after tomorrow.
Yeah, I own Matty Cash as well. Again, someone I think I'm going to be benching this week. That's how good my back line looks this week. I can bench Matty Cash away to Bournemouth. But yeah, we'll see on that one. We'll be looking at Big Man's team in detail in today's show, as well as, of course, answering the 3 big questions of the game week. Hello to everyone in the chat. Loads of our familiar faces are here. Joshua and Heather and I'm 1974. Good to see you guys. But also FPL Down Under. It's a good time for you in Melbourne, this slot, isn't it? Cameron's with us as well. He's been up since 5 a.m. anyway. Welcome to fatherhood, Cameron. Michael, Mr. T. Good to see you, Dan, as well. Henrietta, don't know if we often see you much, so hopefully we'll get some new faces with this time slot. If you are new around here, do hit the like button, but also think about subscribing to the channel as well. Where should we get started, big man? Before we look at the 3 big questions, I just want to touch on one of the games from last night, which was the Man City game. They're losing 2-0 at halftime. Second half early, they make a couple of changes. They're starting with some of the core starting 11, but a couple of rotation guys in there. And Alvarez and Doku come on, and Foden moves centrally. Bernardo Silva goes out to the right where Foden was playing, and Foden moves centrally. And the game looks completely different. And then we start seeing goals. Foden scores, Haaland scores. They look really, really good with Foden in that pocket. After watching him last night and Pep going, no, Bernardo, go out to the right, Foden play in the pocket, I wonder if Foden will get more minutes centrally over the festive period. And if he does, it's always opposition dependent with Pep. But someone I've got my eye on for a short-term punt around the Luton and Palace game before they blank. But also, Doku, got his rest last night. Doku's going to start again this weekend. He started Chelsea, started Liverpool. Do you like the City?
Yeah, I mean, this season we've seen that Pep tends to go with him with Doku whenever he sort of fancies it's basically a ploy against the easier opponents. But in recent form, I it might change. I mean, as of now, if I was to pick, because this is all relevant to double game week, which we might see in game week 20 or 21 for Manchester City, it's difficult to predict which city to pick. But as of now, I think Haaland is one. There's another slot in Walker, I think, who's probably the safest
Yes.
defender to go for, especially given that Diaz is having a bit of a nightmare, and Guardiola seem to be locked in rotation. So I do think there is a midfield slot which will be up for grabs. Actually, there will be a lot of midfield slots up for grabs because Salah will be going to the AFCON, Sun Asia Cup, um, Mbomo again AFCON. So there is this slot, and it would be really ideal for us fantasy managers if any city mid could actually put his hand up and become an option, because our team is crying out for it.
Yeah, I do. I do look at the two games before the blank. I think it's 16 and 17. I think they have Luton and Palace, and I think Saka has a couple of tricky games. I think Saka maybe has like Aston Villa and someone difficult, Liverpool.
Yeah.
And I wonder if I might be willing to jump. And then in game week, it's game week 18. Saka has Liverpool. I wonder if I can move off Saka for 2-3 weeks and go to a Man City mid. Don't know. I'm thinking
So,
about it.
yeah, it could happen. It could happen, yeah, because Saka, his fixtures are tricky at that point. But again, you'd want him back later
Yeah,
for
you would.
that round from game week 19. That's the counter argument. And the thing with Saka is you just know he's going to play every minute. I know his stats aren't great, but he's just the uh, boring guy who you need in your teams at this point in time when rotation could happen.
That assist he got at the weekend for Havertz, straight. He's looking like he's blanking. 85 minutes on the
Yeah.
clock. He gets the assist, but with Saka in a low-scoring game, when he gets a goal involvement, he gets bonus points too. So straight away, that assist wasn't a 3-point assist; it was like a 5-6 point assist.
Yeah, he created a big chance early for Jesus as well, which helped him. But just the
Yeah,
fact that the guy is on set pieces is going to be the likely penalty taker. I say likely because he has a habit of donating pens in recent times. But we do expect him to do well, and especially at a time where the risk of rotation is at an all-time high. I I think it's a bit risky to consider selling him. But having said that, I think I might consider it as well. For example, if I want someone like a Trippier in my team, even though he's on 4 yellows, he's playing Luton and Fulham in 17 and 18. So
yeah.
I mean, it is an option. I will consider it, but I don't think I'll go there personally.
Yeah. Some comments in the chat on this one. Cam said about Doku, thinks he could be an 8 out of 10 starter, but also says, imagine Doku playing 120 minutes in that double. Yeah. And if he's playing 8 and 10, we're good. JR says, everyone buying Saliba now is borderline embarrassing. Bro's a 5.5 million centre back. Yeah, but he is a very reliable source of clean sheets. But I agree, the upside isn't necessarily there for Saliba. And many did buy him like Bigman for a little bit less than that. FPL Freddy says, I'm selling Saka this week. I hear that. Joshua says Douglas Luiz owners 7 massive points. Douglas Luiz, another one, like Trippier, on 4 yellow cards, by the way. Also, Matty Cash is on 4 yellows. There's a few fairly big names. Sterling, Bruno Fernandes, Rodri, all on Luca Dean, all on 4 yellows. It's white to game week 19.
Yeah, Trippier is the big one there. And Palmer is on 3, actually.
Palmer's on 3 as well, was he? Yeah.
Yeah.
82 Paul Mack. We don't ever see you in the chat, my friend. Hello, Paul Mack. Hopefully you're a subscriber. Watching all the way from Perth. Thoughts on Foden? Yeah, amazing last night. It was when he moved central. Like, he wants to be in that in between the lines in the KDB position, and the team that was put out originally before when we saw the leaks against Liverpool was a front four of Haaland, Grealish, Doku, and Foden. It was going to be a benching for Alvarez. So if that was the case, and then Grealish got ill and things swapped, that was how the team leaks, the in the know, suggested the lineup. That meant it was going to be Grealish left, Doku right, and Foden central with Bernardo behind Haaland. So what do you think of that, big man? Like we saw against Liverpool, Pep's plan was to play Foden, I think, centrally, because Doku and Grealish were in the 11 and then Alvarez came in and that meant Foden out wide. Again, last night, he played central for a lot of that game and looked brilliant.
He's definitely someone worth monitoring. As mentioned earlier, there are plenty of slots up for grabs in our teams, and I don't want to sound premature right now because the best City pick, in my opinion, before the double will be the best time to assess it will be right before the double. I mean,
Yeah.
we could be sitting here, let's say, a month before the double and saying that Foden looks brilliant, but by that time he might
Hmm.
not be secure for starts at all. So it's better if we delay that decision for as long as possible, which is tricky because City do have that run in game week 16 and
Yeah.
17 where they're playing Luton away and Palace at home.
I
So
want a piece of that.
I, I mean, but it does come with a bit of risk as well because then you run the risk of benching that player in game week 18 when with the likes of Haaland and Mbomo.
Yeah.
Benches will get stretched and they will get used in game week 18. So unless you're fully committed to a free hit in game week 18, it is difficult to say.
I think I am actually ruling out a free hit in 18 as well, and I still want a piece of Foden in or Doku in 16, 17. I think for me it would be a short-term buy for a Saka. I'd actually sell for the blank in 18, and then when that double comes round, if the double comes in, we think it will in game week 20, maybe that's a different City punt. It seems like a lot of transfers, but for those that are always carrying two, you're probably going to have that luxury to be able to make one short-term punt over the festive period. I don't think we can go. We can't play FPL like it unless you take hits every week of going short-term punt after short-term punt. But with the luxury for those that wildcarded around 10 that are carrying 2 free transfers most weeks, as I am, the short-term punt for, say, a 16, 17 Foden or Doku to sell in 18 is very, very possible. So I'm looking at that. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. We'll move on to those 3 questions. But before we do, just you mentioned the free hits. It'd be sloppy of me not to ask you about it, big man. When will you rule it in or out? Because if we are free
Yeah,
hitting
it's
in
it's
18,
definitely worth a discussion. It's
we
definitely
need to
worth a
commit to it soon, though,
discussion.
don't we? If we're going to do it, because it
Exactly,
affects our
because
transfers now.
game week 18 is fast approaching now, and we're in game week 14. So
Yeah.
a lot of transfers could be dependent on the game week 18 strategy. At this point in time, I'm not ruling it out. I think I might go there. Uh, there's a chance I might not. So I'm pretty 50-50 on it
Okay.
because I ideally I want to save it for the big blank, which will happen due to the FA Cup quarterfinals in game week 29, and I think that will most probably be my plan. But I'm not ruling the game week 18 free hit out because I do see some gains to be made because Aston Villa versus Sheffield United is a fixture where I don't think I'll have many players from apart from Watkins.
Yeah.
Similarly, Newcastle versus Luton is a hard one to call. Isak could be someone, Trippier could be someone I want to go to. There is genuine upside by owning them at that point. Similarly, I don't own Gordon either.
Yeah.
And the likes of Lascelles, Livermento, which are popular in the template teams at this point in time, might not be options by then. Let's say Livermento could get rotated, Lascelles could be out of the team if Botman comes back. We're never going to hear Eddie Howe speak honestly about Botman's fitness because that's just who he is and that's what he does. And then there's the Spurs fixture versus Everton. I mean, you could just go with someone like, apart from Son, go with someone like a Porro, Johnson. So it is a debate to be had for sure. It's not as straightforward as one can just sit here and rule it out.
How else do you navigate that blank around the FA Cup quarters without a free hit, though? If you use it in 18, because there's so many pros to it in 18, especially as Jamie says, or someone mentioned in the chat, I've lost the comment. It's not just the 18 free hit. It's you can load up on Man City and Brentford and benefit from those players now who have got good fixtures, especially Man City, as we've mentioned, 16, 17, and then have them for the double. So if you're free hitting in 18, for me, you have to go into 18 with at least 4 players between Brentford and Man City. Just Haaland and Obama isn't enough to make the most of it either side of that.
Apart from Brentford and Man City, Johnny, Arsenal are playing Liverpool in that week.
Yes, right? Good point.
And a lot of us will have, a lot of us are buying Arsenal players this week because they're getting most of the traffic. Even Liverpool players, a lot of people have jumped on Tsimikas. Kelleher could become an option at that point, right? So a lot of us would have loaded up on Arsenal, Liverpool, and a fixture between them does not really scream upside. So you could just probably avoid the defense on the free hit, for example.
You're still putting Salah in though, aren't you? your free
I
hit,
will put Salah in. Yeah,
and maybe
I would
Saka.
almost certainly. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't think I'd go with Saka. I'd
I
probably go
wouldn't.
with Son. I would probably go with Son and someone like a Johnson maybe,
Yeah.
or
Okay.
Gordon for Luton.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's loads of pros. Talk to me about when else we'd used a free hit, though, big man. You mentioned the
Yeah,
blank.
that's the yeah
There's not
that's
going to be because there's not going to be too many big doubles to make the most of, right? We'll use a bench boost
yes.
around a double. We'll use a wild card around, but in terms of using a free hit in a big double game week, as we have in years gone by, because we've had backlogs, we don't necessarily think we'll have that this season, do we?
Yeah, I mean there will be small double game weeks. For example, the one which we were speculating about Brentford and Man City, but not the big. I mean the big ones will happen later after game week 30, like they usually happen 34 and 37. That will be the case. But apart from that, there won't be too many windows. And
Yeah.
generally in those big doubles, I tend to play um, the bench boost anyway,
Yeah.
right? So the free hit windows for me as of now, I've I'm only counting the two windows as game week 18 and game week 29. Game week 29 will be difficult to navigate, you're right, because with the FA Cup quarterfinals, a lot of teams will end up planking.
Yeah.
And it will be a very tricky week to negotiate without a free hit for sure.
Yeah, it might be that if you free hit in 18, you just have to suck up the fact that in that 29, you might field 7 men and you just go, it's okay. It's hopefully, fingers crossed, going to be a really low scoring game week. When you get a red arrow in a
Yeah.
low scoring game week, it doesn't really hit you. The big question for
And it's
many is look
difficult
at
to
18,
speculate which
their upside.
and it's and you know at this point in time we're in game week 14, it's very difficult to speculate how good or bad the game week 29 blank will be, because we don't
Yeah.
really know which teams are going to make it to the quarters, which will blank, which will not blank. So it's very difficult to be sitting here speculating, which is why the best solution is possibly to keep our options open.
Yeah, I think you have to commit to it by next week. You don't have to commit to a free hit this week. For example, I'm buying in Bomo. It doesn't really make a difference. So that doesn't affect my free hit strategy. I mean, maybe it does, but it actually doesn't in my thinking. But by next week, your transfers need to be aligned with your strategy, I think, for free hit, especially knowing there's 2 game weeks next week.
Exactly.
Cool. Jorge in LA is watching. Lovely to see Jorge in the chat. We don't often see you. It's 1-2. Does that mean, what does that mean? Is it like 1 a.m. or something? Hello, Jorge in the chat. Blackjack as well. Michael, Chat Sport, thank you for your support. Guys, stay with us. Big Man's team is coming up in the next 10, 15 minutes. We will show you it. But first, let's have a look at 3 big questions of the game week so far. I mean, I'm loving the questions we've had so far around the free hit. I think definitely worth touching on. We'll continue to do that on these Wednesday streams. Question number 1. What we got? Yes, of course. As you mentioned, and Bomo's getting a ton of traffic. Eze, Diaby, Matoma, all being sold en masse. I mean, you could probably put Bowen in that category as well, from last week especially. So we know the answer here. Is it that simple? Is it Mbomo, or
I
are
think
there
it's very
other
simple.
options we look at?
Of course, I mean, I think Mbomo is the number one priority. I've already been very vocal about him last week. In fact, someone commented that you speak of Mboma as you have some stocks invested in him or something, and I was like, I just really love the guy. But when you look at the stats, I mean, he's only second to Haaland for non-pen XGI. I mean, what more do you want for someone price 7 million, someone who's playing Luton at home this week, who are terrible away, conceding over 2.5 XG away every week, and then he has Sheffield United away in game week 16 as well. Even Brighton haven't kept a clean sheet. I think that's a good fixture for him as well. I suspect he'll play in a 3-5-2 in game week 15 and up top as well against Aston Villa in game week 17. So the fixtures are there. I won't let that one blank put me off. I still think owning Haaland and Bomo, and depending on the bench, is fine for most people. The trickier discussion is what to do if you already own a Bomo.
Yeah.
And I think I would probably jump to Palmer. I think Palmer is the best.
Over Gordon.
It's a close call. I mean, there's a 0.6 million price difference at the moment. So it's not as if we're comparing apples with apples, because they're of a different price.
Yeah.
When you look at their numbers, these numbers are for non-pen XGI, which you see on screen. And this is basically in the time period when Palmer started playing. So this is from game week 7, where he got his first start. He's 7th for non-pen XGI, as you can see, in the graphic, which is fine. I mean, I do hear a lot that Palmer is heavily reliant on penalties. He won't get penalties every week. His numbers aren't that bad. His numbers are fine. Even from a non-pen XGI perspective, they're perfectly fine. And then you sort of keep into account that he's also on penalties and the fixtures that Chelsea have coming up. I mean, I do expect that he'll do well. Brighton at home, great fixture. United is a good fixture as well. Everton away, Sheffield United home, Wolves, Crystal Palace, Luton, Fulham. That's an insane run till game week 21. You do want a piece of the Chelsea attack. And at 5.3, I just think he's the best option. Having said that, I do think that it's close between him and Hwang and Gordon, because Hwang and Gordon do have good underlying data as well. But the fixtures and the penalties swing it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, Hwang will be on them, Gordon not, but Palmer is on pens. And the fixtures from 16 are insane for Chelsea. They're insane. That run is as good as you'll see.
Exactly. And you mentioned Hwang. Now, Hwang has Arsenal this week, so it doesn't exactly feel like the best entry point. Arsenal away. He does have Burnley and Forest at home, which are incredible fixtures in 15 and 16. But after that, West Ham away, Chelsea, Brentford away. I mean, that's not exactly a great run, is it? So it's just because of the fixtures. I mean, there's not much to split them. I won't really think it's an obvious call like I think it is with Mbomo. I think it's a 51-49 between Palmer and the likes of Wang and Gordon. But I still maintain that Palmer is the best shout. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think I'm with you. And the reason I went Palmer 2 weeks ago was I didn't want him for this fixture run. It was a couple of tricky games. I had to burn a transfer, and I knew long term I wanted to play FPL with the cheap guy that is on pens that's about to have really good fixtures in game week 16.
And who will not be so cheap anymore.
Yeah, who's going up and going up and going up. And I think I tweeted to be like, I've just bought Palmer, and even if he blanks tonight, he'll still go up in price tomorrow because the traffic towards him was so high, and I think he did. So there we are. Sachin says, Wednesday 9 a.m. live pod. Yes, indeed, Sachin. Guys, do hit that like button if you're joining. 82 Paul Mac, thank you for driving people towards that like button. That's always appreciated. And if you're watching on catch up, then hopefully you've enjoyed the show. If you've just joined in live, you might want to go back and watch the last 20-30 minutes. We've had a really good discussion on free hit and big chat so far of the game week just gone, but we've got loads to look forward to as well. We've got Bigman's team coming up. I think we've still got another big question though, Bigman.
Yeah, the next question is about cash replacements, and a lot of people are in the market for a cash replacement. Firstly, do you think he's a sell?
I don't think he's necessarily a sell ahead of Bournemouth away, but the reason he's not a sell is there's very few standout options going, you need me in your team. Like, let's assume everyone's got an Arsenal defender. I'm going to assume many have got Tsimikas. Personally, if I didn't have Tsimikas, I'd be going cash to Tsimikas as a sell this week. Like, I think Tsimikas for the next 3 is going to get 2 clean sheets, and there could be another 15-pointer in him. So there's few options out there with the Reece James suspension, with the fact everyone's already got Arsenal covered. Although double Arsenal defence sure does look good, I still question the upside with those players. So it depends who you've got. If you don't have Tsimikas, though, I'd move straight there.
I think you've put it very nicely. I don't think he's a hard sell, but if, let's say, I was in a position where I had 2 free transfers, then I do think that I'd consider selling, especially now that he's on 4 yellows. In that run that Aston Villa have coming up, I mean, I don't expect them to keep a clean sheet away to Bournemouth this week. In fact, even their odds aren't that great. I mean, just to put it into perspective, they're 26% to keep a clean sheet this week, as opposed to, let's say, 36% for Newcastle and 40% for Burnley. So, I mean, someone like a Charlie Taylor could
come on. I bet he's in both our 11s, Charlie Taylor, this week.
He is.
I've got him in instead of cash,
So, I mean, the odds are clearly saying that, that's the better move. After this week, cash has Man City at home, Arsenal at home, Brentford away. I can't see Aston Villa keeping a single clean sheet in that run. Now, the caveat is that Aston Villa have Sheffield United at home in game week 18. So if, like you mentioned earlier, that you are looking to save a free hit in 18, then someone like a cash could become very useful. But again, you're running the risk of a potential suspension. Who knows, he gets suspended in game week 17 and you end up with egg on your face holding cash. So it's not exactly ideal. holding him. So I think, in my opinion, a long story short, I think he's a sell. He's not a hard sell, but I just don't see the upside with him, especially now that his minutes are a bit in doubt as well. He's not really getting those consistent run of 90 minutes that he was getting earlier when we invested in him.
Yeah, he'll pick up that yellow card in game week 18, so then he can miss the Boxing Day game in 19 because players love missing the Boxing Day game. We've seen that a few times. I guarantee one of those players on 4 yellows
Is
gets a
that a
silly
thing?
yellow. Yeah, there's a couple of examples of it, and players have spoken post career going, I picked up a soft yellow there because I wanted to be off for Christmas. I don't know if I'd say Matty Cash is one of those players. But I guarantee there'll be one of those on 4 yellows that picks up a yellow for, like, I don't know, kicking the ball away. A really obvious, I'm doing this to get Boxing Day off type of kick. But we'll look out for that.
Okay, so coming to the replacements, as you can see on the graphic on the screen, there's only one defense that stands out, and it's the
Yeah,
Arsenal one.
head and shoulders, aren't
And
they, at the moment?
yeah, I mean, Gabriel, Saliba, Zinchenko, these are the guys that stand out, in my opinion. And you mentioned that at 5.5, Saliba is slightly expensive, and he might not be worth it. But I mean, if you're looking to hold someone over the long run, then he's as good as it gets. If you're looking for someone for the short term, I don't mind Zinchenko, because I do think there's a very good chance that he plays the next two, because Arteta does seem to prefer him in games which are easier on paper. So against the likes of Wolves and Luton, I do think Zinchenko will play, and he's a bonus monster. We saw at the weekend. He just cleans up the bonus whenever Arsenal keep a clean sheet. So I really like Zinchenko as a pick, but for long term security, I think Gabriel and Saliba are the ones, and I have both of them in my team myself.
Yeah, exactly. I can see someone in the chat. We think Allison. I don't think there's confirmed news yet on the Allison injury, but yeah, it looks like he'll be out for a few weeks. If anyone sees any confirmed stuff this morning, do let us know. Yeah, cash is an interesting one. For me, I'll be holding this week, but benching. And then next week, when I've committed to what I'm doing around a free hit, that will affect my cash replacement. So, for example, you mentioned Arsenal defense being the best. They clearly are. The Man City numbers are also good here, aren't they? And Kyle Walker, if you're free hitting in 18, could be a nice cash replacement.
Yes, I think Kyle Walker is a great shout. As mentioned earlier, I still think he's the best pick in the Man City defense.
Yeah.
And apart from that, I mean, Arsenal is obvious. Kyle Walker is a decent shout if you're investing later. Um, Speak to me about Newcastle and Brentford. I mean, these are two teams I want to discuss, because with Newcastle, as mentioned earlier, we don't really know where to go apart from, I mean, Trippier is too expensive, and I assume a lot of people won't have the funds to go directly from cash. Share is a decent shout. I don't mind Share at least, but ideally you want to have that value pick, and that value pick is Lascelles and it's Livermento. But I mean, will Lascelles be an option by game week 17 and 18 when we really need him? Will Livermento play both games in 17, 18? I'm not sure, because I mean, there is that risk, because I was looking at the fixture schedule for Newcastle, Chani, and Newcastle have an EFL Cup game against Chelsea,
It's a big
sandwiched
one.
between game week 17 and 18, right? And all the fixtures are congested, and it's a packed schedule. Not just that, there's also the fact that Lewis Hall will be ineligible for that game, so I think Livermento will play there again, and that might mean that he might miss one of Luton or Fulham.
Yeah,
I
although
am
Eddie
looking at
Howe
buying
doesn't
Livermento,
rotate.
but I don't really know.
Eddie Howe doesn't really rotate defenders, does he? Like he likes his back four,
Yeah.
and when they're playing well, he gives, as long as there's no injuries. So with Livramento, for some, and you're right, like I'm doing it too. I look at the fixtures and go, oh, he'll miss one of them. But why aren't I saying Trippier will miss one, or Cher will miss one, or if he was fit, Botman would miss one? They wouldn't. So I don't think we should necessarily be questioning Lascelles missing one, because if he's first choice and playing well and fit, and by the way, this is a young player that hasn't got lots of injuries, like he's had long-term injuries, but in terms of niggles, he was also outstanding again last night against PSG. It was his great work which led to the Isak goal. I would assume he is first choice. Well, we know he's first choice, but I'd assume he'd still be first choice then, and he'll play all of those games. I think if I'm going Newcastle defence, I'd just go budget and go Lascelles and Livra.
To answer your question regarding um, Trippier, I mean, firstly, with the centre backs, I just don't think centre backs tend to
Centre
get
backs don't
rotated a
get
lot in
rotated.
Champions,
No.
right? So they're safe. Someone like a Shearer is safe, and Trippier, I think, will get his rest in the EFL Cup. So I think Trippier should be safe for the two games, um, which Newcastle are playing in 17 and 18. With Livermento, do you really expect him to play all the games in the Premier League, all the games in the Champions League, then the EFL Cup game as well, because because of the suspension to Lewis Hall. I mean, he will be ineligible.
Yeah, I mean Lewis
I'm
Hall
not
hasn't
sure.
started at. I think Lewis
I
Hall
still
started
think
once or twice at left back since he's
he
been at
did against
Newcastle.
Bournemouth. Yeah, he did it against Bournemouth, and he was hooked. So at halftime, and he did play against
But Man United in the cup.
Dortmund against Dortmund as well. He was left back, if I'm not mistaken. Livermento played on the right wing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So these are the two games, and the third game you mentioned is the cup game. So it's tough to say. I mean, at 4.3, I love the local Livermento, and I might still buy him this week, despite knowing that he's a rotation risk for 17 or 18, because it will open up plenty of funds, but it's a tricky one. It really
I,
is.
I think he'll be fine. I mean, you're right. He might miss one, but anyone could miss one. He is more
Yeah.
vulnerable than a centre back, sure, but the way he's playing, I think Howe will stick with him. And you mentioned Trippier might get a rest in the cup, and maybe I think Trippier is as likely, if not more so, to need a rest or to get a rest than a Livramento. Just the sheer volume of games Trippier has played between then and now. Although he did miss the last international break, didn't he, Tripp? So he has had a little. I think he
Yeah.
did. He leave the England camp early. He's had a little bit of a rest there.
It's tricky. It's tricky for sure. And all we need now is a report suggesting that
Yeah.
either Botman is fit or back on the grass, or either he's
He's going to be
out
out for a while. This is classic Eddie Howe. Not maybe he doesn't need surgery, but he still wasn't on the bench at the weekend, which loads speculated he will be. And he's not going to come straight into the 11 the game he is back. We'll see him on the bench first. So
I'm not as concerned about
all right for a couple of weeks.
The thing is, I mean, okay, forget Eddie Howe. We know he's a habitual liar. Like, let's forget Eddie Howe. When you look at the reports from the journalists, they're suggesting that Botman is back on the grass, individual training. Now, those are the sort of reports which sort of spook me, and they do worry me. I mean, there's a chance that Botman could come back sooner rather than expected, and then Lascelles might become a dead option. So that's why I'm a bit hesitant in going Lascelles.
Yeah, it's hard to buy Lascelles now. I must admit, I don't think I'd be going Lascelles. I'd be going Livra. But when I made the move 3 weeks ago, it was like, yeah, Lascelles easy for me, because at the time Livra wasn't in the 11. And Jamie makes a good point. He's a Chelsea fan, and yeah, you're completely right, Jamie. Lewis Hall has never been a left back at Chelsea. In the academy at Chelsea, he was a centre mid. He was number 8, and he was brilliant there. The reason he started getting minutes at left back, as we see a lot with young players, is managers are usually, especially in midfield players, a little bit more confident putting him in the 11 as a fullback. Do you remember Saka? All his first games started at left back, and that's what happened at Chelsea. They had an injury or two and he played left back. So sure, he's left-footed and can play left back, but long term he sees himself. And I don't know how Eddie Howe sees him, but at Chelsea he was definitely seen as an 8. Pedro Porro, there's been loads of chat about Porro.
Yeah.
Spurs aren't in this chart. Their defensive numbers aren't great, but the upside with Porro is probably bigger than any other fullback in the league. Is that fair at the moment?
Yeah.
In terms of sheer attacking data, he loves a shot. He's in the touches in the box. He's in and around it.
Yeah, I want to touch on Pedro Porro as well. I think I've earmarked, from game week 15 and 16, the defenders to have, in my opinion, are James and Porro. I mean, you mentioned that no one has the same degree of upside. In my opinion, James has. James and Porro are the two ones to go for from game week 15. When you look at the fixture swings, after this week, Spurs have a reasonable run, and so do Chelsea. So these are the two defenders to get, in my opinion. James, after he comes back from suspension, is a great bet. And I think he's probably the only secure start in the Chelsea defense as well, because with Chelsea, Badiashile and Disasi are locked in. They're locked in rotation. So are Colville and Cucurella. Silva's the only one who's nailed, but at 5 million for a guy who might get the odd rest. I'm not sure. Uh, and Porro, I love Porro. I mean, he's on set pieces as well in Madison's absence, and even though their defense isn't really great in terms of underlying data, Vicario is a great goalkeeper. He's bailed them out time and again. He's one of the
Yes.
best keepers for XG prevented this season, actually. And if Spurs get a clean sheet, then Porro is very likely to get bonus points as well. So I like Pedro Porro as an option personally.
Yeah, I do. And the Chelsea backline will be interesting if we jump there before 16 or we wait to it, or maybe we cover that Chelsea backline with the Sanchez, because again, patience is running dry with Areola. I think
Exactly.
at the fixtures for Areola, you just give him 1 or 2 more weeks. But with Kelleher as an option, if you've got transfers to burn, I don't mind going Kelleher for selling a Turner for a Kelleher.
Yeah, we will come to that. We will come to that in the next
Oh, is that
question.
the next question? Oh, nice.
It is. But for this particular question, one last thing I'd want to touch upon is the Brentford defense. So do you think someone like even without a free hit, do you think it's worth it? Because I mean,
not without a free hit, because it's just another bench player for 18.
It is, but the thing is, they do have Luton at home this week, which is a prime fixture. Then they have Sheffield United away in 16. So I mean, these are 2 clean sheet fixtures, and even after 19, even after 18, their fixtures are decent. When you look at Brentford,
if you've got Mboma and Haaland, though, if you've got Mboma Haaland, you're going to have to stick a Pinnock on the bench. You're really thin for 8, and then it rules out going a short-term City punt. For me, knowing there's so many of us that are 50-50 on a free hit in 18. By the way, I wasn't. I was ruling it out until I had this conversation with you. So I'm glad we've discussed it, because I'm not 50-50, but it's at the back of my mind. It could happen. I'm probably 30% likely to free hit.
Yeah, exactly.
But knowing so many are 30 or 50% likely to free hit, the Brentford defender conversation, therefore, should just be wiped out until you commit to that. If you are going to free hit, then a brilliant shout. Get the clean sheets against Sheffield United and Luton, get the double in 20 and buy a Brentford defender. But if you're not going to free hit in 18, just go for someone else. There's so many other options still at Chelsea. We've mentioned Porro, Simicast. You don't need a Brentford defender, but if you're free hitting in 18, it could be smart.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you do potentially get a double later as well, but the additional fixtures against Man City, so you're effectively gaining nothing, right? And I mean, ideally, when you're looking at double game week options, the goalkeepers tend to do better than the defenders anyway. So I'm not sure the double is worth in as a factor in the consideration. But just looking at the numbers in general, I mean, if I was jumping on Pinnock, it would solely be because, I mean, because of Brentford's fixtures from now on in, excluding the blank in game week 18. And B, because of the fact that they're good on set pieces and they do carry this threat. So someone like Ayer or Pinnock, they could do well. But Ayer is on 4 yellow cards, though, so that's a bit of a worry. But he's a good pick too. He's slightly more attacking than Pinnock, actually.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. I look forward to seeing the Brentford buyers, the Pinnock buyers, and if they are committing to free hit when they buy Pinnock or not. So let us know in the chat if anyone is thinking of doing that. Let's move on to our third and final question. Then we're going to see Bigman's team. Thank you for all the likes and subscribes. The live audience has been a little bit slow this morning because of the new time slot, but I've no doubt many will want to watch this on catch up. It's been one of our best shows and most informative, I think, to date. So let's have a look at the third big question. Kelleher, worth a hit or worth it? Sorry.
Worth it, yeah. So you touched upon Areola earlier. I mean, I've given up hope, man. Yeah, I've given up hope. I'm just sitting here every week looking like a complete dodo, having him in my team because he's just useless.
Yeah.
And this is probably the last chance alone for him.
At Crystal Palace at home. If you cannot do
without
it there,
without Eze.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't do it there, then he's not going to do it anywhere. So this is a week where you can potentially go with him, but I mean, sooner rather than later, you have to look at someone like a Sanchez because this is not sustainable. Keeping Areola for such a long period of time without any signs of delivering. I mean, the West Ham defensive statistics, man, they're so poor. They're actually 16th for non-pen XG conceded. So They just don't inspire me with any kind of confidence, which is why, let's say, I think that if we get news, as is being rumored, that Allison is out for 5 weeks, which would basically rule him out for the entire year, and that would include 6 or 7 game weeks for Kelleher,
Mm.
and that would be big. I think there's an opportunity there. What do you think?
Yeah, especially because he's 3.9 million, and we don't need to sell Areola. Like, if you're buying Kelleher, you sell your reserve keeper, you sell your Turner or your Strakosha, and then you just keep
Yeah.
Kelleher long term, and you play Areola again if you need to, and hope that West Ham's defense has improved in 5-6 weeks. There's also the gifts of Raya and Sanchez, both really good value. So I do think I'll end up selling Areola, and patience will run dry. But I am going to give him the Crystal Palace game.
Yeah, the thing is, Johnny, I just think, I mean, underlying data wise, there's no comparison. Liverpool are fifth for XGC conceded, West Ham are 16th.
You know,
But the only consideration for me is, what if you need triple Liverpool in game week 24 or 25, which is when they are likely going to double if they reach the EFL Cup final, which they might. I mean, it looks like they probably will, because the EFL fixtures they have, I mean, they're playing West Ham at home, so you'd expect them to reach the semis at least. And
yeah.
then the teams left in the competition aren't exactly of a high standard. Some of the other ones aren't exactly great. So I do think Liverpool will reach the EFL Cup final, which will likely give them a double, which will involve Luton at home in game week 24 or 25. Now, that's a game week where you would want to triple up on. So if
Yeah.
you're buying Kelleher, is he a transfer out later? That's the only consideration in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably has to be. But then you go short-term gain with, even when you look at the next 3 fixtures, Sheffield United and Foot, I think there's 2 clean sheets there straight away. And that's just not something we've been getting from goalkeepers. So, yeah, you might need a 4-point hit later on. But are you going to make a +4 between now and then by having Kelleher in your 11 over an Areola in your 11? Yeah, you're going to. So I think you probably just have to write it off. And then, of course, there is that chance they don't get that double because they don't get to the final. So I think
The next
the
three,
rewards are there. I think the
the
rewards
next
are there
three,
now.
then yeah, the next 3 fixtures are there, like you've mentioned. Liverpool are playing Fulham, Crystal Palace, Sheffield United, amazing fixtures. But you do think that the short-term games are probably going to be enough to probably justify a transfer out later. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. And then the other question, though, is, are you looking at already going for a Sanchez in 16 or a Raya before that? And if you are, then you don't need a Kelleher. So this conversation isn't as simple as, do you want Areola in your 11 or can you sacrifice him for Kelleher? There
Exactly.
are 2 other good options out there. The Chelsea backline's very good. The Arsenal backline's as good as it gets. And Raya and
Yeah.
Sanchez are both silly, crazy low money. We won't get an
Yes.
Arsenal goalkeeper under 5 million again next season.
Especially, and Arsenal and Chelsea, they don't really have a nailed route in the defense apart from, I
Yeah.
mean, even James isn't entirely nailed. So the
Yeah.
safe route is Sanchez, right?
Yeah.
In that defense. So I mean, that's an interesting
And
discussion.
you could sell
Another thing to
Areola, couldn't
factor in.
you? If you're buying,
Another thing,
one of those, you sell Areola. If you're buying Kelleher, you sell your number 2 keeper. But if you're buying Sanchez or Raya, you make a little bit more money by selling 4.2 Areola than your 3.9
yeah.
Strakosha.
I mean, adding to this discussion, there's also the possibility that, assume that you buy Kelleher for, let's say, Turner, right? Then instead of being a transfer out later, which I'm debating, the counter argument to this could be that yes, it's a transfer out later, but then you can get a double game week keeper in 24, 25.
Oh, nice. Hadn't thought of that.
Because
Yeah. Even
that's
if you're
also a
using a hit,
possibility.
you could bring in someone on a double. Yeah, a 4.5
Yeah,
option. Yeah.
yeah. Someone, because when you look at the EFL Cup finalists, I mean, Fulham, Everton, these teams are in there. So someone like a Pickford, Leno, they're cheap. That could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily that bad. I mean, even if you have to sort of remove Kelleher later, you can just go up to a double game keeper. So, and I don't think funds will be an issue at that point anyway, because with these guys gone to Afcon, I don't think funds will be too much of an issue. Sun might not be there as well at that point. So, I mean, this is why you have to sort of keep your options open. But this is where I'm at, and all these discussions that we're having are pertinent to my team, and we will come to that in a second. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is the conundrum. But there are a lot of decisions to be made this week which aren't exactly obvious, which is what makes this game week tricky, because you want to be in a position where you're flexible going into the weeks to come.
I think we're going to know about the Allison injury and how long he's going to be out by this game week, because they've got the Thursday night game as well. So press conferences even higher. You get another opportunity to speak to Klopp. But I think this question, because of Areola's fixture this week, this question will be carried into next week. So again, this might be one of our questions for next week's show. But of course, there are 2 deadlines next week with the Tuesday deadline. So let's move on to Big Man's team and see if we'll probably be talking goalkeepers next week. But your team's well stocked this week. You've got 2 free transfers. So you have to burn one. You're going to burn one. What's your top line original plan to burn one? Where would you go? Is it a cash? Is it a cash or a Gahey transfer out? Is it a goalkeeper transfer?
It's tricky. I think the 2 weak spots in my team are probably Areola, and I can sort of address him by selling Turner. So either Turner out or cash out. I mean, these are the 2.
You've got no money in the bank either. So you'd have, if you're making a goalkeeper transfer, you're ruling out a Raya or a Sanchez, because you could just go Kelleher for Turner, fine. But obviously cash out makes you some money too.
Exactly. That's why I think I prefer selling cash over Gahey, because I mean Gahey will probably go from my team either next week or the week after next anyway. But I just want to do that transfer this week just to get the additional funds, and I just don't think cash would be an option for me in the next 4 weeks. So I don't want him.
Cash to Pinnock and free hit in 18.
That's the thing. I don't want to commit to it. So,
I don't think Pinnock is. I don't think Pinnock is the answer if you're not free hitting. It just makes less sense to me.
I mean, it's not a guarantee. I could or I could not. I mean, it depends. But even if I'm getting Pinnock, it's for the fixtures from this week on, right? I mean, the alternative is Livramento for cash.
I like that.
The thing with the Livramento plan is that if I get Livramento for cash this week, then I have enough to do Gahey to Porro and Saliba to James, which is something that I really like.
That is nice.
I mean, I can get Porro next week for Gahey, and then after Arsenal have played Wolves and Luton, and then they have a bit of a rough run against Villa, Brighton, and Liverpool, then I can sell Saliba for James.
Or Walker if you free hit.
Yeah, or Walker, actually. So that's a good plan, and that's something I have in my mind. The alternative is, of course, swapping Turner to Kelleher, which I like because there are gains to be had. So it's not exactly straightforward, because
even with Liverpool, this week, would you? If you bought Kelleher, you'd start him this week because the fixture's slightly better, but you just know I think, Liverpool concede and Areola keeps it clean.
Yeah, and he's going to get 3 bonus points as well. He's going to help himself to a 10-pointer. So that's the risk that I run. But yeah, these are the moves. I looked at the clean sheet odds. Liverpool are actually much higher than West Ham. Liverpool are 48%. Yeah,
as they should be.
So I mean, I would
West Ham.
Play,
there's a comfort blanket with Areola. There's a reason why we've still all got Areola, mate. This is 100% it, and I'm 100% in this bracket myself. Subconsciously, even if we say we don't care, it's the comfort blanket. Oh, I don't mind getting a keeper blank because everyone else gets one. That's all it is. It's ridiculous that we still all have Areola, but we've written off the position because we don't care. Because yes, we fail, but everyone else fails too, so it doesn't matter. Really, it annoys me that I think like that, and I clearly do because I've still got Areola.
So the 3 potential moves for me are either Turner to Kelleher. Like mentioned earlier, that's a move I like. Similarly, cash to Livramento or cash to Pinnock are also fine. But the risk with Livramento is that he could miss a game in 17-18. That's the problem. I think these are the 2 moves that I
definitely
like
misses 18.
Yeah, I think I like the Livramento move more than
I do.
Pinnock as well.
I like the goalkeeper move, but I just question if we want a Raya or a Sanchez long term. And if you do that, the last thing you want to do is make a goalkeeper transfer now and then another one in a month's time, 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I'm fine going without Raya till at least game week 19 because I have double Arsenal defense for the good fixtures.
True, you do.
And then when they have when they have a rough run, I won't be getting Raya anyway. So for me, it's going to be Sanchez.
With Sanchez, who's cheaper as
Yeah,
well, like 4.6 for
yeah.
Sanchez. Yeah,
So it's technically between Kelleher and Sanchez, and
yeah.
it's a tricky one, isn't it?
It's a really tricky one. Getting the money out of cash, though, to give you breathing space for next week and keeps you flexible for the 2 game week deadlines next week. Cash to Lascelles gives you almost $1 million to play with. Should you
Yeah, I don't
need
think I'm
to.
going to get Lascelles. Yeah, but unless
Sorry,
we
not
hear news
Lascelles.
on
Livermento. Yeah,
Livermento.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
if we get
I
news from
think
Botman, but we're just not, are we? We're not going to get solid news from Botman.
yeah, I think it's very unlikely. But if we do, then of course I would love to go with Lascelles. But yeah, as of now, it's going to be Keller or Livermento, and that's just what I think.
I haven't looked who Archer plays in 18, but the only
Willow,
other
Willow,
option
Willow
is
away, Willow
who
away.
does
Bad.
Semenyo play? Who do Bournemouth play in 18?
And Forest away.
Oh, good memory. I just wonder if the Archer move out. Let's say Mabama on Thursday night starts for West Ham, scores goals,
I mean, he
and
played well.
Moyes
He played
says
really
that,
well. He
yeah,
made a difference.
and Moyes says Bowen's out for a couple of weeks. The fluid on the knees worse than we thought. Blah 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 blah. Mabama for Archer, or is there an option where you go cement? I'm just thinking of other 4.5. Shame Chris Wood's not 4.5, or that'd be a move. Archer to
Yeah,
Wood.
yeah.
He's 4.9 Wood. Okay, well,
No,
I
I
look
don't think
forward to
I'll be
seeing your
selling
team.
Archer. I think it's either going to be Livermento or Keller, and
Yeah.
it's going to be tricky. I'd actually like to hear more in the live chat as to what people
Yeah.
think I should be doing. So do let me know, guys, what you think, whether I should be swapping Turner to Keller or Cash to Livermento, because these are the 2 moves I'm considering at this point in time.
I think I'd be edging on the cash downgrade and still not rule out Turner to Kelleher next week if you need to, because again, you're going to be carrying that second free transfer. Let's talk captaincy. At the moment, you've got it on Salah. Give me a percentage. Firstly, is it just these two? Surely it's just Salah versus Haaland this week. And
Yes,
then second,
it's
what
just these two.
percentage are you? What's the split?
It's just these two, and I could easily swap to Haaland. It's that close. It's 51-49 because I really like Haaland as an option against that defense
Yeah,
of
I'm about
Spurs as well.
60-40 on Haaland at the moment, I think.
Yeah.
But that could change based on Salah's minutes on Thursday and form on Thursday. I think the European fixtures are so important for these guys. And Haaland did get 90 last night, although he had the benefit of a Tuesday game. So again, Haaland's got a nice little break now. I say break, like really, but it's not a Wednesday or Thursday game. It's slightly more favourable. And he's not got to travel either. He had a home game yesterday. That's nice. And he's got a home game again this weekend. I don't know. Did Salah away on Thursday night or at home?
Home.
See, I like that too. If one of them was traveling midweek, that's a couple of percent right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So you prefer Salah for his? Do you prefer the fixture for Salah? Because I think the fixture for Haaland's almost as good in terms of as an attacking fixture.
It's tricky to say. I completely agree with your assessment. I think Haaland's fixture is equally as good.
4 fullbacks.
Exactly. Playing as centre back. I mean, Emerson Royal. I mean, that high line. I mean, I don't think Haaland would have seen anything like that since his Dortmund days.
That'd been amazing
Right?
for Haaland. And he would have been
exactly.
he would have beat the offside trap more than Son did against Aston Villa as well. I know that was the Aston Villa back line, but yeah.
So you're likely on Haaland, I take.
I'm 60-40. I'm close. If Salah goes and gets only 30 minutes in the week, though, and his 30 minutes
I don't
sharp,
think he's going to
Liverpool
start.
look sharp,
He's not going to
he
start.
shouldn't
He's not going to
start.
start.
He
No
shouldn't
chance.
start.
I don't, because it's Liverpool are comfortably placed in the group, and it's an easy fixture. So I don't think he'll play.
Yeah.
Especially ahead of this congested schedule that Liverpool have coming up.
I just think Fulham can sometimes do quite a good park the bus jobby. And I know Spurs can't. Like I know Spurs are going to come and play, which I think will be foolish. At
that's
home,
the only way
Man
they know.
City. I was watching the Man City game yesterday, and the commentator said, and City have scored the 3rd goal. That's now 3 goals in every group game in the Champions League this season. That's like what 5 games. They just score 3 goals every game. Like this team they just, especially at home, that's so reliable.
Yeah, exactly. City at home are a different beast, and that's why I very rarely tend to look away from Haaland, even if he's playing one of the big 6 teams in a single game week. It doesn't really happen, but yeah, it's going to go right down to the wire this week.
You know, he's been missing big chances as well. Like he's missed as many, I think, more than anyone this season. Watkins, I think, second. Loads of those big chances he missed were a couple of months ago. He's not really missing many big chances now either. Like he's looking like, again, the finish at the weekend, the finish last night. He's looking like he's got his rhythm a little
Yeah.
bit more. Like, obviously, this is the world's best number 9. He's always got rhythm. He always looks good in front of goal. But there was a time this season where he was a little bit wasteful. You're not seeing that
Yeah.
now. Back to his clinical,
Exactly.
sharp best.
Yeah, he's in good form, and that game against Spurs versus Villa. I mean, that game was full of chances. I expect this game to be similar. City
Oh,
versus Spurs. This will be a goal fest. I can
yeah,
see there being, let's say, more than 4 goals in this one. Four or
yeah.
more goals.
Yeah, Liverpool-Fulham should be a 3-0 Liverpool win. But if Fulham keep a clean sheet till half-time, it could be cagey. If Liverpool score early, it could be a mess. It could be like, why
Exactly.
didn't I captain Salah? It's all about that goal in the first half an hour. Does it happen or not? And I
And
think
I
I
do
give
think the
Fulham a
swing
little
will
bit
be
more
big.
credit than that. I think they can
I
keep him
think this.
out.
I think this swing is going to be big this week because
Yeah.
we will actually see proper diversity in the captains. I don't think we'll have this one standout captain this week.
Who do
It'll
you
be a
think will be
proper
higher
split.
owned? Who do you think the majority will go Salah because the fixture is there, or will people go safety in EO and therefore think
I
Haaland's
think
going to have higher EO?
from what I see in the polls, etc., Salah is around 55-45 ahead in the polls. I think Salah will be slightly more popular, at least in the community that consumes FPL content. But overall, I'm not sure.
Should we do a quick poll now? We've got 2 minutes. Let's see if we can do a
Of
quick
course,
poll. Early
I think
thoughts for
Salah will win.
captaincy,
I think
Salah
Salah
or
will win.
Haaland? So
Sure.
you said 51-49 Salah. I said 60-40 Haaland. So again, even we're split.
Yeah, and I mean, by this evening, I could be 51-49 on Haaland. This is
Yeah.
how close I am.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't think I'll be 60-40 on Salah, but I could be 51-49 on Salah, I guess. I think I'll end up going Haaland. But yeah. Thursday night could tempt me. Guys, I look forward to seeing your vote on this one. As you're voting, you can also hit that like button. I'd love us to get to 100 likes. Can we get there? Come on. 167 of you watching. Guys, if you have just joined in, I promise you have missed a really good show. So go back and watch the last hour.
This has been one of our engaging ones, most engaging ones.
It shows that FPL is getting exciting again, doesn't it? Because our agenda and our
Exactly.
schedule is set by the game weeks that are about to come up. And with there being so much going on in FPL at the moment,
Yep.
especially with the free hit discussion in 18, I really enjoyed that. And it opened my eyes to maybe going, oh, I could go 18 and I could stock up on Doku and Walker in 16 and commit to a free hit in 18. You know, if I free hit in 18, I'm going into it with 6 Brentford and Man City players. Who do you captain in game week 14? There's a poll out. Just let us know your early thoughts. We're not asking you to swear by this. We're just keen to know the split. And Bigman, you were saying a lot of the polls you've seen were pretty split, but Salah edging it or Haaland edging it?
It's all edging it, but surprisingly, in our poll, Haaland is slightly ahead. Slightly ahead. He's 65-35. I mean, that's quite a difference, actually. I would
That might be
expect
based on our discussion, though. We did give a lot of reasons why Haaland's worth picking.
Exactly. So it's going to be interesting to see whether that sticks before the deadline.
Yeah, nice. Guys, you can keep voting on that poll. Final thoughts from you, big man. You're likely to use just one of your 2 free transfers this week, right? You'll be carrying the second one.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, someone's just
one.
tweeted saying they've just seen that Allison might be out for slightly less time, but I don't know. Can we get a source on that? I'm looking on Twitter now. Might be a 3-weeker, but we'll know more. I'm sure we're going to know more.
Klopp will have a press conference. Yeah, he does have a press conference today.
Yeah. There we go. Guys, thank you so much for watching. It's been an awesome show. As I mentioned, please go back and watch the last hour. Likes and subscribes, always welcome. Dean and I will be back on Friday. Me and Big Man won't be streaming next Wednesday because it'll be mid-game week. So we might be doing a Tuesday stream next week before the deadline at some point in that day on Tuesday. So make sure you set that notification bell and we'll see you very soon.